Good morning, everyone. Um, Matthew sent me an email. Um, he's going to a tournament, 750 point tournament, and he was wondering if I would review that list and at the same time just give him pointers for what he could do going forward. How could he expand the list? Where to go from there? And he even sent me a list of his collection, what he has so far. So let's see what we make of his list here. So it's a 750, 749. That's perfectly fine. 11 order dice. 11 order dice, that's pretty good at 750. Um, More or less where I think you should be. You should be around 10 to 11 at 750, I think. Um, let's see. He brings a British reinforced platoon with a late war Royal Marine Commando lieutenant. That is a nifty little unit. An extra unit as well of infantry, but it is very expensive. 136 points for 6 men. At least you get the SMGs for free. I am not sure this is worth it. You can tell I'm hesitating here. I'm really not sure this is worth it. And it's a 6-man unit. 6 men don't fit into any um, nice transport, which is what small units of this type typically should be doing. Let's see the rest of the army here. Commando section, veteran, 6 men again, SMGs, 2 6-man units. A commando section with rifles, behind enemy lines, tough fighter, both of those. These are pretty good outflankers, decent outflankers. They've got their veterans and they got behind enemy lines, so that is very easy to outflank them, but they're a very small unit, 5 men. The free artillery observer, of course. Another commando section with rifles again. Blood curdling charge. What? This I don't understand. I really don't understand. I'll get back to that one. I would pick something else for this type of infantry setup. Medium mortar, Inex. Sniper team, regular. Piat team, commando Piat. Ooh, okay. Veterans with a submachine gun on the loader. Hmm. Not sure that's worth it either. I have to be honest. The damage output that they do is not that much greater, and their main focus is hunting tanks. So this is a double focus for this commando team. You can get, what was it? A Pied costs 40 point regular, which is perfectly fine. It's all you need. Um, for 50 points, I think I would rather have a flamethrower, to be honest. A truck and a Bren carrier. Now look, my problem with the setup of these commando sections before, these commandos up here, the 6-man commandos with SMGs, is they're the ones who need transport, right? They need to move up into the area where they're effective, where they can start damaging the enemy with the submachine guns. They have 12 shots, which is a fair amount of damage output, but not an awesome amount. They're not going to be able to delete an enemy unit each turn, and that is one of my main points why I'm not sold on these commando sections. So what I think he intends is to put them into the truck, which has 12-man capacity, but that truck is going to be very, very vulnerable to pins and to damage. So the enemy skirmishers are going to shoot at that truck as it moves up. And if any of them roll a 6, that truck is damaged and the guys inside it get damaged as well. So it is an extremely vulnerable push. It's more or less a definition of a glass cannon here, and it's not that cannony. The brain carrier, that is perfectly fine. I like brain carriers; they're good, but their problem is they have five-man transport slots. So the large unit of commandos can't actually use the brain carrier, which is competitively the preferred method of bringing commandos. Is a five-man unit, SMGs into a brain carrier, and then push up. Um, that's how I see most people use them, and I'm not sold on this alternative method here. The Crusader third AA, that is solid, really solid. It will be able to hunt infantry. It will be able to hunt light tanks, enemy tanks, stewards especially. So that is a solid choice for a tank. It's a combination of how you are going to push up your commandos and use them. I think I would do that differently. I think I would get myself another Bren carrier and then cut down on the size of the commandos so they become five-man commandos. Then the blood curdling charge. I'd get rid of that completely. Let me tell you why. Blood curdling charge benefits you when you're charging. Now, most of your army is definitely never going to charge. Um, The medium mortar, not going to charge the sniper, not going to charge the commando Pia team, two veterans, not going to charge the truck, no. The brain carrier, no. The crusader, no. Um, these rifle arm commandos, five men veterans, probably not. So the skirmishers, not. The forward observer, not. Um, really, you have two units that might at some point charge. That is the SMG armed commandos, but they are six-man units. They are going to get hurt before they charge, and they are not dedicated chargers. They are pretty good skirmishers. They are tough fighters, very survivable, but they are not chargers. They don't have anything that especially benefits them in assaults. So why would you pick a national special rule that benefit assaults? I don't get it. For me, way more worth it would be vengeance on this army. Commando armies, they're not the most competitive. They're not the uh, top dogs of the British lists, but I think they could be okay. But they need to be played as skirmish armies, um, because they don't have the punch. The commandos there don't have the punch of Gurkhas in close combat. They don't have the punch of Maoris in close combat. They don't have the punch of engineers and flamethrowers in close range combat. So they're not really good at that. What they can do is they can be a deterrence, sitting in a brain carrier when you're building pseudo tank lists. So they sit in that brain carrier. The enemy won't charge you because you're five veterans with SMGs. That they're pretty likely to get messed up by that. So the brain carriers will be left alone. They'll be moving up. They'll be shooting, and then at some point you might get out of the brain carrier and deliver a lot of shots. But 10 shots is not a massive amount. It's not unit deleting, and five-man veteran, six-man veteran, they are not going to delete units that securely in close combat either. So yeah, I think vengeance would be way more worth it, and then stick a few more commandos into brain carriers. You might even cut down the lieutenant to not being a commando section and buy just a inexperienced, maybe even a regular lieutenant, because he's going to sit in a brain carrier as well. But then you're building something completely different. You're building a pseudo tank list. Now, let's see. This is, by the way, this is his list of the units in his collection. You have three universal carriers, Matt. Those three universal carriers need to be in your list. If you're going to run commandos, they are well paired with universal carriers. So yeah, that's what I'd do. I'd also utilize a lot of these riflemen. I'd give most of my commandos rifles, I think. They don't necessarily need the SMGs, although I can see you have 10 SMG armed commandos. That is, if you have the points, yes. You're not going to need the Vickers Ks. They're not worth it. Points for value, not for tournament play, unless there's some bonus to machine guns. The Crusader, yes. Now, so that would be my feedback for the list here. It's an okay list. It's not something that's going to win tournaments. Um, if other people bring optimized army lists, it's not going to win tournaments. Each of these units can be deleted by a single flamethrower, and I think you really need to get yourself. So you might stay with the Commando Piat team. Then, if you're building up to 1,000 points, I would at least get yourself a flamethrower. That is the minimum. You've got three sections of infantry. I think you need to get yourself. If you're building up to 10, you need to get yourself one more section of infantry and an armored car. And you do. Let's see. I think he had a Daimler. Oh, that wasn't it. Yeah, Daimler armored car. That's an that's that's more thematic than it's actually good. Um, the Staghound or the AEC armored cars, really good. You might also use one of your universal carriers as an armored car. Um, so a recce carrier. Um, boom, boom, boom. Or get yourself a jeep, and put airborne double machine guns on it. Um, even a motorcycle would be good. That would be the next thing. So for this list, building it up to 1,000 points, I would get a flamethrower team, possibly with a transport jeep, or they could sit in one of the brain carriers, because you're definitely replacing this truck with a brain carrier, right? Um, and then I would get an extra infantry section. I would get 5-man commandos with rifles to sit in a brain carrier or to skirmish. 5 veterans can skirmish. They don't need to be 6 men to skirmish. They're still survivable enough. Um, and an armored car. That would be my suggestion for building this up to 1,000 points. For 1,200, I would definitely boost out the commando sections. 10 shots with submachine guns is enough to damage something, to pin something, but it's not enough to kill something. If you want to kill something, you're going to need to have a lot more shots, or you're going to need to have to go into close combat. And close combat units, they need to be 7 or 8 men. That's the range. So for 1250, I would boost the size of your commando units. You don't necessarily need the submachine guns, but even I would push even the rifle squads up to 7 men, unless they're sitting in brain carriers, which is a whole nother. And by the way, you can have your small teams sit in the brain carriers and man the pintle-mounted LMG. But for 1250, I would definitely boost all the commando sections in size. They would become There would be more of them. I would get myself a Bren carrier for each small team. So the Piat team would get one, the Flamer team would get one, um, the Lieutenant would get one, and then I would get myself a tank as my armored car choice. So a Staghound or an AEC. Um, will that reach 12? Maybe not, but it's pretty close. Yeah, that would be my feedback. Matt, thank you so much for the list. Good luck at your 750 tournament. Um, Try to run both your Britain carrier and your truck very close together. Try to run the truck behind the Britain carrier because that truck is vulnerable. It needs cover. It needs hard cover if you can get it. Um, and then unload everything at one point. I'm not sure it's enough, but it's the best you can do right now with this list. Um, if you can change blood coding charge, because that is not going to help you most of the time, but you are going to be within 12 of the enemy, so change it to vengeance. Right, that was it. Thank you so much for the listen. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.